The message came through at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, crackling through the emergency radio frequencies like a voice from another world. Captain Sarah Chen was pulling a double shift at the Coast Guard station in Astoria, Oregon, when the transmission broke through the static of routine weather reports and shipping updates. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is research vessel Aurora's Dream. We are in serious trouble. Position approximately 200 miles northwest of the Oregon coast. We have children on board. Repeat, we have children on board. Sarah's coffee mug hit the desk with a sharp clink as she leaned forward, her training kicking in instantly. After 15 years in the Coast Guard, she'd heard thousands of distress calls, but something in this voice made her blood run cold. It wasn't just fear, it was desperation mixed with something else. Something that sounded like wonder and terror combined. Aurora's Dream, this is Coast Guard Station Astoria. We copy your mayday. Please state the nature of your emergency and confirm your position. The response came back fragmented, punctuated by what sounded like wind and something else. Something that made the hair on Sarah's arms stand up. Coast Guard, this is Dr. Marcus Webb aboard Aurora's Dream. We're a marine research vessel. We were investigating unusual sonar readings when we found them. They're not from here. They're not from anywhere we know. And they're asking for help. Sarah exchanged glances with her colleague, Lieutenant Rodriguez, who had been monitoring the radio traffic. His eyebrows were raised so high they nearly disappeared under his cap. Aurora's Dream, please clarify. What is the nature of your emergency? Are you taking on water? Do you have injured personnel? No, you don't understand. Dr. Webb's voice was getting more agitated. We found them in the water. They shouldn't be able to survive at this depth, at this temperature. But they're here, and they're communicating with us. The children can understand them. Only the children. Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the early morning air. Dr. Webb, how many souls are on board your vessel? 12 adults, 6 children. The children are part of our educational outreach program. They're between 8 and 12 years old, and they're translating. The beings need help. Their world is dying, and they've been searching for someone who could understand them. Lieutenant Rodriguez was already pulling up the vessel registry on his computer. Aurora's Dream, research vessel, registered to Pacific Marine Institute, he whispered to Sarah. Clean record, legitimate operation. Sarah keyed the mic again. Dr. Webb, what is your current condition? Are you in immediate danger? We're fine for now, but they're not. The beings, they're showing us images, somehow projecting them into the children's minds. Their ocean is poisoned, their people are dying. They've been traveling for generations, looking for help. And now they're asking us to help them contact more humans. They need us to spread the word. The radio crackled with interference, and then a new voice came through. Young, maybe 10 years old, speaking with the careful pronunciation of a child trying to be understood by adults. Hello? Coast Guard people? My name is Emma, and I'm on the research boat. The water people need help really bad. Their home is sick, and they don't know how to fix it. They've been looking for people who could help them for a really long time. They're scared they're going to die. Sarah's hands were shaking as she reached for the emergency protocols manual. Nothing in her training had prepared her for this. Emma, this is Captain Chen. Are you okay? Are you and the other children safe? Yes, ma'am. Dr. Webb is taking good care of us. But the water people are really sad. They're showing us pictures of their world, and it's beautiful, but it's getting dark. They say the water is getting poison in it, and their babies are getting sick. Sarah made a decision that would change everything. Aurora's Dream, maintain your position. We're launching a rescue vessel immediately. Do not attempt to return to port until we reach you. Captain, Rodriguez whispered urgently, we need to contact headquarters. This is way beyond our. I know exactly what this is beyond, Sarah cut him off. But those people are out there, and if there's even a chance this is real, we need to respond. Get me Admiral Morrison on the secure line. Now. As Rodriguez scrambled to make the call, Sarah continued monitoring the radio. The transmissions from Aurora's dream were becoming more frequent and more unsettling. The children were apparently serving as translators between the researchers and these mysterious beings, and the story they were telling was both incredible and terrifying. The beings called themselves the Threnodidae, and they came from an ocean world in a distant star system. Their civilization had thrived for thousands of years until their sun began to change, emitting radiation that poisoned their seas. They had sent out exploration vessels, searching for other worlds with compatible oceans, hoping to find allies who might help them develop the technology to save their world. They had been searching for over a century, following radio signals and other signs of intelligent life. They had found Earth's oceans and had been studying human civilization from afar, learning languages and customs. But they had never made contact because they couldn't communicate with adult humans. Something about the adult human brain structure made it impossible for them to establish the telepathic link they needed. Children, however, were different. Their minds were more flexible, more open to the kind of communication the Threnodidae used. Emma and the other 5 children on the research vessel had become the first human ambassadors to an alien civilization, and they were translating the most important message in human history. Admiral Morrison's voice crackled through the secure line 20 minutes later. Captain Chen, I need you to tell me you're not having some kind of breakdown. Sir, I know how this sounds, but I've been monitoring the transmissions for the past hour. Either this is the most elaborate hoax in history, or we're dealing with genuine first contact. Captain, I've got the Secretary of Defense on the other line, and she's about to wake up the President. This better be real. Sir, I recommend we treat it as real until proven otherwise. Those people are out there, and if this is legitimate, we're looking at the most important event in human history. Agreed. I'm scrambling a full response team. You're to maintain communication with that vessel and keep them calm. And Captain? Not a word of this goes public until we know what we're dealing with. But keeping it quiet was about to become impossible. The first news helicopter appeared on the horizon at 8:15 a.m., followed by 3 more within the hour. Somehow, word had leaked. Sarah suspected it was one of the technicians who had been monitoring the radio traffic, but it didn't matter now. The story was out, and the world was about to change forever. The Coast Guard cutter Steadfast reached Aurora's Dream at 10:30 a.m., and what they found defied all expectations. The research vessel was surrounded by a pod of what looked like dolphins, but they were larger, more streamlined, and they moved with an intelligence that was unmistakably alien. They stayed close to the ship, occasionally surfacing to breathe, and their behavior was unlike anything the Coast Guard crew had ever seen. Captain Jennifer Hayes, commander of the Steadfast, established communication with Dr. Webb immediately. Dr. Webb, this is Captain Hayes. We're here to assist. Can you describe your situation? Captain, thank God you're here. These beings, the Threnodidae, they've been waiting for you. They understand that you represent a larger authority, and they want to communicate with your leaders. Dr. Webb, we're going to need to see evidence of what you're claiming. Can you put one of the children on the radio? A few minutes later, Emma's voice came through again, but this time she sounded tired. Hello, Captain Hayes. The Threnodidae leader wants to talk to you. Her name is, well, I can't say it right, but it sounds like singing. She's very old and very wise, and she's been waiting her whole life for this moment. What happened next was recorded by multiple cameras and would be broadcast around the world within hours. Emma began to speak, but her voice changed. She was still recognizably a 10-year-old girl, but her words carried a weight and wisdom that seemed impossible for someone her age. Greetings, representatives of the human species. I am the one you call the Threnodidae leader, speaking through this young one who has graciously allowed me to use her voice. We have traveled far and long to reach your world, driven by desperation and hope in equal measure. Captain Hayes nearly dropped her radio. The voice was Emma's, but the cadence, the word choices, the formal structure, it was clearly someone else speaking through her. We mean no harm to your species or your world. We are refugees, fleeing a dying ocean under a poisoned sun. Our children grow weak, our coral cities crumble, and our people face extinction. We have sought you out because we believe that together, our species might find a solution that neither could achieve alone. The implications hit Captain Hayes like a physical blow. This wasn't just first contact, this was a refugee crisis on an interstellar scale. We have knowledge of ocean management, of biotechnology, of energy systems that your species has not yet developed. In exchange, we hope that your brilliant minds and advanced technology might help us find a way to heal our world or perhaps find a new home among your seas. The radio fell silent for a moment, and then Emma's normal voice returned. Captain Hayes? Are you still there? I think I fell asleep for a minute. Dr. Webb came back on the radio. Captain, the children have been doing this for hours. They translate for a while, then they need to rest. The Threnody leader says the connection is taxing for young minds. Captain Hayes looked around at her crew. Every face showed the same mixture of awe and terror that she felt. Dr. Webb, we need to get everyone back to port. The Navy is mobilizing, and there are people who need to hear this directly. Captain, the Threnody want to know if they can follow us. They're willing to surface and show themselves to prove their sincerity. Tell them yes. But slowly. The whole world is watching now. Indeed, the whole world was watching. News networks had interrupted regular programming. Social media was exploding with leaked radio transmissions and grainy cell phone videos taken from distant boats. The hashtag first contact was trending globally, and world leaders were making emergency statements. The journey back to port became a parade unlike anything in human history. The Steadfast moved slowly, followed by Aurora's Dream, which was surrounded by dozens of the Threnody. They surfaced regularly, showing themselves to the cameras that now covered every angle. They were beautiful and alien, with sleek bodies that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight and large, intelligent eyes that conveyed emotions that transcended species barriers. But the real drama was yet to come. As the convoy approached the Columbia River, they were met by a massive flotilla of military vessels. The Navy had mobilized the entire Pacific Fleet, and the seas around the Oregon coast were filled with destroyers, cruisers, and aircraft carriers. Above them, fighter jets circled in holding patterns, and the sky was filled with helicopters from every news organization in the world. Dr. Webb's voice crackled over the radio with obvious concern. Captain Hayes, the Threnody are getting nervous. They're asking about all the warships. Tell them it's a precaution. We're just as scared as they are. But as they approached the harbor, it became clear that not everyone was handling the situation with the same level of measured caution. Protesters had gathered on the shore, some welcoming the aliens, others demanding they be sent away. Religious groups proclaimed everything from the second coming to the end times. Scientists pleaded for peaceful contact, while politicians argued about jurisdiction and protocol. And then, at 2:47 p.m., just as the convoy was entering the Columbia River, everything went wrong. A single fighter jet broke from its holding pattern and dove toward the water where the Threnody were swimming. The pilot, later identified as Major Thomas Jackson, had apparently suffered some kind of mental breakdown and was attempting to attack the aliens. Rogue aircraft, came the frantic radio call from the carrier. Major Jackson, return to formation immediately. But Jackson was beyond hearing. His F-16 screamed down toward the water, and the Threnody scattered in panic. Their graceful formation dissolved into chaos as they dove deep, seeking safety. Captain Hayes watched in horror as one of the Threnody, apparently trying to protect the others, surfaced directly in the path of the diving fighter jet. The collision was inevitable. The impact sent a shockwave through the water and the watching world. The fighter jet cartwheeled across the surface before exploding in a ball of fire. The Threnody was thrown through the air, its body twisted and broken, before disappearing beneath the waves. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, from Aurora's Dream, came a sound that would haunt everyone who heard it for the rest of their lives. It was Emma, screaming, not in her own voice, but in the voice of the Threnody leader, expressing a grief and rage that seemed to come from the depths of the ocean itself. You have killed our child. Our youngest, our most hopeful, our future. She came to the surface to greet you, to show you that we meant no harm, and you have murdered her. The voice speaking through Emma was raw with emotion, and the little girl's body shook with sobs that weren't entirely her own. "We came to you in peace, offering friendship and knowledge. We asked for nothing but the chance to save our dying world. And you respond with violence and death." Captain Hayes felt tears streaming down her face as she grabbed the radio. Please understand. That was not authorized. That pilot was acting against orders. We did not want this to happen. Your species speaks of peace while your warriors prepare for war. You welcome us with warships and weapons. How can we trust you when you show such contradictions?" The political ramifications were immediate and devastating. The president was forced to make an emergency address to the nation within hours, explaining the situation and condemning the actions of Major Jackson. The United Nations called an emergency session. World leaders scrambled to present a united front, but the damage was done. Dr. Webb came on the radio with an update that made everything worse. "Captain Hayes, the Threnody are withdrawing. They're going deep, and they're not responding to the children's attempts to communicate. I think we've lost them." But Emma's voice came through one more time, weak and exhausted. "The leader says they're going to leave. They're going to find another world, another species that might be better than humans. She says we're too young, too violent, too afraid. She says maybe in 1,000 years, we'll be ready to meet them again." The silence that followed was broken by the sound of helicopters and the distant roar of jet engines. The world held its breath, waiting to see if humanity's first contact with an alien species would end in failure and violence. But then, something unexpected happened. A new voice came over the radio, not Emma this time, but one of the other children, a boy named Michael who was about 12 years old. "Wait," he said, his voice shaking but determined. "Please wait. I can still hear them. They're not gone yet. They're listening." Captain Hayes keyed her mic immediately. "Michael, what are they saying?" "They're arguing. The leader wants to leave, but some of the others want to stay. They're saying that one act of violence doesn't represent all humans. They're saying they've been watching us for a long time, and they know we're capable of both great evil and great good." Dr. Webb's voice joined the conversation. "Michael, can you tell them that we're willing to do whatever it takes to make this right? That we want to help them?" "I'm trying, Dr. Webb, but they're scared. The one who died, she was the leader's daughter. She was the one who convinced the others to make contact with us. Now she's gone, and they don't know if it's safe to trust us." Captain Hayes made a decision that would define the next phase of human history. "Michael, tell them this: we are not perfect. We make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes hurt people we care about. But we learn from our mistakes, and we try to do better. Ask them to give us a chance to prove that we can be worthy of their trust." The next few minutes felt like hours. The world watched and waited as a 12-year-old boy served as humanity's ambassador to an alien civilization. News networks provided live coverage as politicians and military leaders stood by helplessly, knowing that the fate of interstellar relations rested in the hands of a child. Finally, Michael's voice came back, barely above a whisper. "They're coming back up. Slowly. The leader says, she says she'll give us one more chance. But only because her daughter believed in us, and she wants to honor her memory." The Threnody began to surface again, but this time they were different. They moved more cautiously, staying further from the human vessels. Their body language, if it could be called that, conveyed wariness and grief. Emma's voice returned, serving as the conduit for the Threnody leader once more. "We will stay for now. We will try to work with you. But understand this: our trust has been broken, and it will take time to rebuild. We will share our knowledge and our needs, but we will be watching. Any sign of betrayal, any act of violence against my people, and we will leave forever." The relief was palpable, but it was tempered by the knowledge that humanity had almost lost its greatest opportunity due to the actions of one unstable individual. The incident would lead to major reforms in military protocols and psychological screening, but for now, the focus was on moving forward. The convoy finally reached port at 6:30 p.m., and the scene was unlike anything in human history. The harbor was packed with boats of every description: military vessels, news helicopters, private yachts, and fishing boats. The shore was lined with thousands of people, some cheering, some protesting, all of them witnessing history in the making. The Threnodai remained in the deeper water of the harbor, maintaining their distance but clearly visible to the cameras. They were magnificent creatures, clearly intelligent, and obviously as curious about humans as humans were about them. Dr. Webb and the children were transferred to a secure facility where they could rest and be debriefed. The children were exhausted from hours of serving as translators, and the adults were overwhelmed by the magnitude of what had happened. But the real work was just beginning. Within 24 hours, a joint task force had been assembled with representatives from every major nation. Scientists, linguists, diplomats, and military leaders worked around the clock to establish formal communication protocols with the Threnodai. The children, despite their exhaustion, were essential to the process. Emma, who had become the primary translator, explained the situation to the assembled officials. The Threnodai leader says their world is dying faster than they thought. They have maybe 50 years before their ocean becomes completely poisoned. They need help developing technology to clean their water or finding a new world where they can live. Dr. Sarah Martinez, a marine biologist who had been brought in to head the scientific team, leaned forward. Emma, can you ask them about their technology? What do they know that we don't? Emma closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them, her voice carried the formal tone of the Threnodai leader. We have mastered the cultivation of living coral cities that can filter and purify ocean water. We have developed biotechnology that can accelerate the healing of damaged ecosystems. We understand the manipulation of ocean currents and the creation of artificial upwelling systems. We have energy sources that draw power from the thermal layers of the ocean without disrupting the natural systems. The assembled scientists exchanged glances. This was technology that could revolutionize Earth's oceans and potentially solve many of humanity's environmental problems. But, Emma continued, we also have knowledge of our failures. We know what happens when a species damages its environment beyond repair. We know the signs of ecological collapse, and we can see them beginning in your oceans as well. Dr. Martinez felt a chill. What do you mean? Your oceans are warming, your coral reefs are dying, your fish populations are collapsing. The same poisoning that killed our world is beginning in yours. If we work together, we might be able to save both our worlds. If we do not, both our species may face extinction. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about helping aliens, it was about saving humanity's future as well. Over the following weeks, a remarkable partnership began to develop. The Threnodai shared their knowledge of ocean management and biotechnology, while human scientists provided information about Earth's climate systems and advanced materials science. The children continued to serve as translators, working in shifts to avoid exhaustion. But the collaboration wasn't without its challenges. Some world leaders were reluctant to share technology with aliens, fearing it might be used against humanity. Others wanted to prioritize Earth's problems over helping the Threnodai. Religious groups struggled to reconcile the existence of aliens with their beliefs, while some scientists worried about the ethical implications of genetic engineering and biotechnology. The breakthrough came 6 weeks after first contact, when a joint human Threnodai team successfully developed a prototype water purification system that could clean polluted ocean water while actually enhancing marine biodiversity. The system used a combination of Threnodai biocultivation techniques and human nanotechnology to create living filters that could remove toxins and restore healthy ecosystems. The test was conducted in a section of the Pacific Ocean that had been heavily polluted by plastic waste and chemical runoff. Within days, the water clarity improved dramatically, and marine life began to return to areas that had been dead zones for decades. Emma, now recognized as the primary human Threnodai ambassador despite her young age, announced the results to the world. The Threnodai leader says this is just the beginning. If we can scale this technology up, we can start healing both our oceans. But it's going to take cooperation from everyone, not just governments and scientists, but ordinary people too. The announcement sparked a global movement. Environmental groups that had been fighting for decades saw new hope. Coastal communities began volunteering to test the new technologies. young people around the world started learning about ocean conservation and alien cooperation. But not everyone was happy with the developments. A coalition of nationalist politicians and religious extremists began organizing opposition to the alien partnership. They argued that humanity should not be dependent on alien technology and that the Threnody might be deceiving humans about their true intentions. The opposition came to a head 3 months after first contact, when a group of extremists attempted to attack the Threnody with underwater explosives. The attack was thwarted by the Coast Guard, but not before one of the Threnody was seriously injured. Emma's voice, carrying the grief of the Threnody leader, addressed the world. We begin to understand why our daughter's death was not an isolated incident. There are those among your species who choose violence over cooperation, fear over understanding. We are not deterred, but we are saddened. We had hoped that your species had evolved beyond such destructive impulses. The incident led to a massive outpouring of support for the Threnody from around the world. Millions of people took to the streets in peaceful demonstrations, holding signs reading "Welcome our ocean friends" and "Two species, one planet." The movement became known as the Unity Initiative, and it represented a fundamental shift in how humanity saw itself and its place in the universe. Dr. Webb, who had become something of a celebrity since the first contact, spoke at a United Nations assembly about the importance of the partnership. "We are not just helping aliens," he said. "We are learning what it means to be a truly advanced civilization. The Threnody have shown us that intelligence without wisdom is dangerous, that technology without compassion is destructive. They are teaching us to be better than we were." The children who had served as translators were also recognized for their crucial role. Emma, Michael, and the others were invited to speak at schools and universities around the world, sharing their experiences and encouraging other young people to learn about ocean conservation and interspecies cooperation. But the real test of the partnership came when the Threnody made an unexpected request. Through Emma, the leader announced, "We have been monitoring your planet's ocean temperatures, and we have grave concerns. The warming is accelerating faster than your scientists predicted. We believe that within 20 years, your ocean systems will begin to collapse in the same way ours did. We wish to propose a massive joint effort to prevent this catastrophe." The proposal was staggering in its scope. The Threnody wanted to establish permanent colonies in Earth's oceans, working alongside humans to implement their biocultivation technologies on a global scale. They would share all their knowledge and work as equal partners, but they would also bring thousands of their people to Earth. The debate that followed was intense and divisive. Some saw it as the ultimate opportunity for human advancement and environmental salvation. Others viewed it as an invasion disguised as cooperation. The United Nations spent weeks in heated discussion, while scientists and environmentalists urged rapid approval. Emma, now exhausted from months of serving as a translator, made one final appeal to the world. "The Threnody leader wants me to tell you something important. She says that her people have been searching for a new home for over a century. They could have taken any world they found, but they chose to ask for permission because they believe that cooperation is stronger than conquest. They're offering to save our planet not because they have to, but because they want to. They want to prove that different species can work together to create something better than either could achieve alone." The vote was close, but the proposal was approved by a narrow margin. The Threnody Colony Initiative was launched 6 months after first contact, marking the beginning of a new era in human history. The first Threnody settlers arrived in the deep waters off the coast of California, where they began constructing their biocultivation facilities. The structures were unlike anything humans had ever seen, living coral cities that grew and adapted to their environment, powered by thermal energy from the ocean depths. Within a year, the results were undeniable. Ocean pH levels began to stabilize in areas where the Threnody technology was deployed. Dead zones showed signs of recovery. Fish populations that had been declining for decades began to rebound. The technology was so effective that coastal nations around the world began requesting Threnody colonies in their waters. But the most significant change was in humanity itself. The presence of the Threnody had forced humans to confront their own destructive behaviors and to work together in ways they never had before. International cooperation on environmental issues reached unprecedented levels. Young people around the world began studying marine biology and alien cooperation. The concept of planetary stewardship became a central part of human education and culture. Emma, now 11 years old, had become the most famous child in human history. She continued to serve as the primary translator and ambassador, but she also became a symbol of hope and cooperation. Her speeches at the United Nations and other international forums were broadcast worldwide, inspiring a new generation of environmental activists and interspecies diplomats. The Threnodai leader told me something yesterday, Emma said during a press conference marking the first anniversary of contact. She said that when they first found our world, they were disappointed. They thought we were too violent, too selfish, too short-sighted to be good partners. But then they met us, the children, and they realized that every species has the potential to grow and change. They decided to give us a chance not because of what we were, but because of what we could become. The partnership continued to evolve and deepen. Human scientists worked alongside Threnodai bioengineers to develop new technologies that neither species could have created alone. The ocean cleanup efforts expanded to cover major pollution sites around the world. Climate change mitigation became a joint human Threnodai project, with both species contributing their knowledge and resources. But perhaps the most important development was the emergence of a new generation of human Threnodai translators. As more children learned to communicate with the aliens, the barriers between the species began to break down. Young people grew up thinking of the Threnodai not as mysterious aliens, but as neighbors and friends who happened to live in the ocean. Dr. Webb, now director of the International Threnodai Cooperation Institute, reflected on the changes during a documentary filmed 5 years after first contact. When we first received that distress call from the Threnodai, we thought we were just responding to a crisis. We had no idea that we were actually answering a call that would transform our entire species. The Threnodai didn't just ask for help, they offered us a chance to become something better than we were. The documentary featured interviews with Emma, now 15 and preparing to enter college with a degree in xenobiology and interspecies diplomacy. People ask me if I ever regret becoming a translator, she said. They wonder if it was too much responsibility for a child. But I think about the Threnodai homeworld, and how it's healing now because of our cooperation. I think about Earth's oceans, and how they're cleaner and healthier than they've been in decades. I think about all the young people who are growing up in a world where cooperation with other species is normal and natural. How could I regret being part of that? The Threnodai leader, now speaking through a new generation of translators, had adapted her message for the anniversary celebration. 5 years ago, we came to your world as refugees, seeking help and offering what little we had in return. Today, we are partners in the truest sense. We have learned that the greatest strength comes not from conquering or consuming, but from understanding and cooperating. Together, we have begun to heal 2 worlds. Together, we will face whatever challenges the future may bring. The celebration was broadcast to both human and Threnodai communities around the world and throughout the oceans. It marked not just the anniversary of first contact, but the beginning of a new chapter in the story of life on Earth. But even as the partnership flourished, new challenges emerged. The success of the human Threnodai collaboration had attracted the attention of other species. Deep space monitoring stations began detecting signals from other star systems, and some of them appeared to be heading toward Earth. Emma, now the senior human Threnodai ambassador, brought the news to the world with characteristic calm. The Threnodai have been monitoring these signals too. They think some of them might be from other refugee species, looking for the same kind of help that the Threnodai found here. But some of the signals, some of them might be from species that aren't as peaceful as the Threnodai. The prospect of multiple alien contacts presented both opportunities and dangers. Humanity and the Threnodai had learned to work together, but would their partnership be strong enough to face new challenges from the stars? The answer came sooner than expected. 6 months after the anniversary celebration, a massive object appeared at the edge of the solar system. It was clearly artificial, clearly alien, and clearly heading toward Earth at a significant fraction of light speed. The Threnodai reaction was immediate and alarming. Through their translators, they conveyed a message that chilled human leaders around the world: we know this ship. It belongs to the Devourers, a species that conquers other worlds and consumes their resources. They must have followed our trail to find your world. We are sorry, we may have led them to you. The implications were staggering. Humanity's first contact with aliens had been peaceful and beneficial, but the second contact might be with a species that viewed other worlds as resources to be consumed.
Emma, now recognized as Earth's primary alien ambassador, addressed the crisis with the wisdom of someone far older than her 15 years.
The Threnodai leader is very upset. She feels responsible for bringing danger to our world. But she also says that the Devourers were going to find Earth eventually anyway. Our radio signals have been traveling through space for over a century. At least now we have allies who can help us. The next few months were a whirlwind of preparation. The Human Threnodai Partnership, which had been focused on environmental restoration, was rapidly expanded to include planetary defense. The Threnodai shared their knowledge of space travel and energy weapons, while humans contributed their expertise in materials science and strategic planning. The children who had served as translators found themselves at the center of humanity's most important military and diplomatic preparations. They worked around the clock, facilitating communication between human and Threnodai leaders as both species prepared for the arrival of the Devourers. The alien ship reached Earth's orbital space on a Tuesday morning, exactly 7 years after the first contact with the Threnodai. It was massive, larger than any human-made object, and its hull was scarred and pitted from centuries of travel through space. Emma, now an experienced diplomat despite her youth, served as the primary communicator for the joint Human Threnodai response team. "The Devourers are trying to communicate with us," she announced to the assembled leaders. They're demanding that we surrender our world to them. They say they have the right to claim any world they find, and they're offering to let some humans and Threnodai live as servants if we don't resist. The response was immediate and unanimous. Speaking for both species, Emma delivered humanity's answer: "We reject your demands. This world belongs to all who live here in peace. We will not surrender, and we will not serve. If you want our world, you will have to take it by force." The Devourers' response was swift and devastating. Energy weapons lanced down from their ship, striking at major cities and military installations. But they were met by a defense system that no one had expected: a joint Human Threnodai network of underwater bases and orbital platforms that had been constructed in secret during the months of preparation. The battle for Earth lasted 3 days and changed the course of galactic history. The Devourers, accustomed to conquering primitive worlds, found themselves facing a coordinated defense from two species that had learned to work together. Human technology and Threnodai biotechnology, combined in ways that neither species could have achieved alone, proved to be more than a match for the invaders. The turning point came when Emma, working with Threnodai bioengineers, developed a virus that could disable the Devourers' computer systems. The virus, designed to mimic biological processes that the Devourers' technology couldn't detect, spread throughout their ship and left them defenseless. Faced with the choice between destruction and surrender, the Devourers chose to negotiate. Through Emma, they communicated their shock at finding two species working together so effectively. "They're saying they've never encountered anything like our partnership," Emma reported. "They're used to conquering divided worlds, not unified ones. They want to know how we learned to cooperate so well." The negotiations that followed established a new precedent for interstellar relations. The Devourers agreed to abandon their conquest of Earth in exchange for knowledge about cooperation and partnership.